Hi everyone, I'm Peyton Capps. I manage business attraction at EDC. However, for about the past year, I was doing business retention and expansion with Stephanie on her team. I've just recently changed. Unfortunately, Stephanie's not here, so I will be handling the business retention part. So, I'd just like to start this off with a quick question. Does anyone here know what percentage of net new jobs come from existing businesses in a community on average?
85.
Good number.
Existing business.
75.
Come on. It's 80%.
Hey.
So 8 out of every 10 new jobs that are created in a community on average come from businesses that were already here. So the attraction team, I'm on it now, does a great job, but really in terms of total job growth, it comes from the existing businesses. This past year, we had 4 business retention and expansion wins, including Garver, who, by the way, that came through a VRE visit, which I'll talk more about in a second. So we were actually in the office that day when that project came up. So we mentioned earlier the 9 wins without incentives, 320 new jobs created through growth. So while we did not keep up with attraction last year, it kind of was my previous stat on its head. But we didn't keep up with attraction last year, but we still created 320 new jobs through our office and saved almost 900. So this is kind of the life cycle of the business retention and expansion programs. A lot of people ask me, when does VRE get involved? VRE, business retention expansion. When does VRE get involved with the inbound companies? And the truth is, we really take over before the company lands in Frisco. So our job is to make the process as smooth as possible, the transition smooth. Our job is to get the company's roots down in the community as quickly as possible with our education partners, with our workforce partners, make sure they can start hiring, finding talent. So we really engage pretty early on in the process. We kind of refer to it as a relay. So leadership and research drives our targeting. Marketing helps soften our markets, then the attraction team visits our markets to work to land companies. Once they get here, they hand that last leg of the baton off to VRE and it starts from there. Our leg of the race is more like a marathon, not a sprint. It goes on forever. So when we're working with existing businesses, like I mentioned, the primary backbone of a good VRE program is getting out and visiting the companies. Last year we did over 150, which is about 3 a week. So 3 times a week, roughly, Stephanie and I are out visiting the companies, talking to them, trying to figure out what pain points they're having, what trends they're seeing in Frisco, in their industry, or just company specific, if they're having troubles hiring. Really just keeping a pulse on our contracted companies, what's going on in our business climate. And then from there, we can leverage our network to plug gaps, build programs, provide them access to programming we already have, which I'll talk more about in a second. But really, it's a very aggressive and proactive outreach to our local employers. It's so important to stay in touch with them all the time. So the number one thing that I've heard for the past year when I'm visiting companies, you can probably guess, is what am I supposed to do with hybrid workers? How can I get them back in the office? How can I start building my culture again? How can I get people to come back to work? And if anybody has a good answer to that, please let me know. Because I went on 157 visits last year and didn't find an answer.
Oh, let's talk.
No, jokes aside, just as important as talent is for attraction, in the attraction work, it's important for business retention and expansion as well. We have to provide companies that are here with enough talent to do what they need to do, or else they'll leave. So talent, even on my side of business retention, is the number one thing. So one thing that Stephanie and I have built to kind of corral this whole talent problem is something we manage in our office called Frisco Talent Task Force. So we actually bring companies, I think I have some, yeah. We actually bring companies in this room and sit them down with representatives from Frisco ISD, Collin College, UNT, and the workforce board for our region, which comes from the state. We do this every other month. We host 3 companies for 30 minutes, and what we do is we let them just hash out what problems they're having, what they want to see in the future, what programs they need from the schools, can I have grants for upskilling? Where do I find those? How do I apply for those? So it's really, really just amazing meetings that we've had that allow our companies to take the chance to speak directly with the universities and workforce boards that are actively trying to build their talent for them. This is actually a really mutually beneficial relationship too. We had conversations with UNT Frisco, with Collin College, with Frisco ISD about some of the new programming they're thinking about implementing in their schools to better serve the talent needs of Frisco down the line. So they are able to cater their programming as well. So aside from the workforce, the next big thing is partnerships. As we mentioned earlier, there's 12 or more public-private partnerships in Frisco going on right now. The reality is there's much more on a small scale. Frisco itself is built on partnerships. So one thing Stephanie and I focus a lot on when we're on our VRE visits is what gaps do they need filled, who do we know that can fill them. We can facilitate B2B connections, we can do business to partner connections, business to governmental bodies if they're having permitting issues, we get them in contact and really just try and help facilitate and smooth the process out for these companies. One thing we really focus on are broad industry trends, and we're watching out for that. So who can tell me what every company is worried about for the next 12 to 18 months? Recession. So it's not always that easy. Sometimes these trends we're looking for are much more niche. But a lot of the stuff that Stephanie and I do work to help mitigate these external, more larger threats to our companies here. So sometimes, like with the talent, it's a really good example. We built the Frisco Talent Task Force as a response to some of the stuff we were hearing. We have the capabilities to plug existing programming or pivot and build new programming if it becomes such a need. A couple of other examples of programming that we currently have are very curated. We have a CEO roundtable called the Frisco Executive Forum. We host Frisco HR meetings where we're meeting with Chief People Officer, Vice President, Talent Acquisitions, to continue to help work towards that talent mission for the companies. So that's kind of how we handle the external threats. We're keeping a big pulse on the community, watching the industry. We work with Erica a lot. She helps us provide some of the policy and the research that's going on around us. We keep in good touch with the chamber to watch policy at the state level, and are always making sure that our businesses are covered, our companies are covered. The companies here also face internal threats. Sometimes they grow extremely quick and they have a big contract and need space now and can't find it, and they come to our office, they're growing, there's no more space in my building, what new products available, what price can I get it for, how quick can I get in? So actually, in these instances, Stephanie and I turn back into project managers. So very similar to the attraction team, if they're growing, creating jobs, taking on new space, we'll run it through our incentive model just like we would for an attraction. And that's what makes Frisco unique, is we're actually willing to re-incentivize the company for new job growth. A lot of communities won't do that, it's kind of a one and done, thanks for being here. Frisco will actually work with you through the rest of your time in Frisco, and will incentivize net new jobs as well, if they qualify. One way that we keep an eye out for growth to help get in front of this process when they're expanding, Stephanie and I and Erica as well will watch job boards. If they're posting a ton of jobs out of nowhere, that likely means something has happened in that business or company, and they're about to explode, or they've landed a huge new contract and they need 30 new staff to be able to handle it. So that's a signal for Stephanie and I to get in to those offices, talk to them what's going on, you looking for new space. Because while we root for the growth and we try and build the growth, at the end of the day, if we don't have the product here, the company's gonna leave. If we can't find the space or talent, they're gonna leave. So while we try and foster and spur this growth, we also have to be in front of the process to make sure we can handle it. Another way that we do that is we watch your leases. If your lease is ending in 24 to 30 months, there's a good chance Stephanie and I are gonna start bugging you a little bit, get in your office, start talking to you, what's your plans, what are you doing in the next 2 years? But really, the whole process is just staying in touch. And that's what happened with Garver. We have several instances like that where we've been in the office, not even talked about expansion or a project, and one of our projects this last year, 3 weeks later, after we left, he called and said, hey, actually, we just landed a contract and need way more space. And that happens. So it's building the relationship so they feel comfortable to reach out and call us, and they know who to call, and that we're there with them, we're helping them, we're plugging gaps along the way, and that's kind of the whole process. And then lastly, I'll go back to my circle slide. It really is a circle because the retention team does a lot to help with the leads on the attraction team. So if we're looking at companies A, B, and C in Frisco, and they all have the same supplier, well then that's the retention team's job to then go and talk to the attraction team about, hey, maybe we should go talk to that supplier and see what their operations look like. There's several good examples of something like that happening. We can also help identify good fits. If employers tell us there's a gap, industry gap in the market, it's usually a signal to go back to the attraction team, talk about what gaps exist, what companies fill that, and work together that way. Some of it also just comes through networks. Sometimes, CEOs are very well connected. Hey, my buddy told me that he was looking and he's headquartered here. Why don't you guys go talk to him? So then the business retention team can then come back and facilitate that introduction. Lastly, our role is really to generate a successful business environment. And what happens is then that gives us the accolades of #1 city to put a business in Texas or to do business in Texas that our marketing and attraction team can turn around and sell. So then it becomes a circle in a cycle. If we're fostering healthy business growth here, we can sell a healthy business, bring in quality jobs, the cycle starts over. Any questions? I'm gonna pass, I know, but.
Virtuous loop.
Yes, please.
Do you guys keep track of businesses that can potentially cannibalize a similar business? Do you try to keep distance and maintain that?
So we watch it just to know what's going on. A lot of the time, that's about as far as it goes, is that we're just watching. In order for us to get involved financially with a company, they have to meet several requirements similar to the attraction. They have to be in XYZ industry, and they have to have a certain number of jobs paying at this level of money. But it's something that we watch, and we've lost companies through mergers, we've gotten companies through acquisitions. It's one of those things that happens, and we do what we can when we can. So we take our companies here very personally sometimes, so we don't want to lose them.
So as Frisco kind of comes to completion over the next 10 to 20 years, there's like 15% left that's not developed. I guess a lot more space will be, or a lot more energy will be behind this BRE. And so, I mean, can we say like, is Hull Park part of that? Was that something that was driven from that, or was that more of an organic thing that happened from their own?
From
Like the redevelopment here, right? They're knocking down the buildings and putting
That's
all this
just Craig
brand new
Hall.
stuff up.
That's Craig.
That's just Craig Hall.
Okay.
He's a visionary. I wasn't here when that decision was made. I'm sure that we engaged with him a little bit, but I mean, that's just really Craig, so.
That's, if I can make a comment about that,
Please.
from my CDC days, but just knowing Mr. Hall, that's just practicing what you preach. I mean, he was kind of innovator, he said, building this office park to begin with up here, when there wasn't a lot going on, and so to recognize the age of that office park and being willing to reinvest in it, again, that's just practicing what you preach. But it takes some to do that, so I think all of us should model that.
But that, I mean, that's a good like win to even, whether it was part of this or not, like, just look what they did, that's a good story to show, how you can use the same land and,
Well, and
bring
they're hearing
another
from
fish.
things like the EDC where we're begging them to build faster, like, we're trying to bring all this stuff to you, we need you to do more. And I think he's someone that engaged with us enough to realize that he needed to add, he could gain a lot by adding a lot more square footage.
I think also to the longer term vision, that is something we keep a pulse on too. We know that Frisco is nearing the end of its population growth, right? We have about 5 to 7, maybe sometimes 10 years in whatever projections you give, but we're 225,000 residents today. We won't get past about 325,000 is the projection. We should hit that within the next 5 to 7 years. However, the business development side of it, the corporate attraction, there's still so much development that has to happen in the job creation. But also when we project that out, we look at projections, in the next 10 to 15 years, a lot of things will need to be redeveloped and reimagined. And so we are now with our board, they do strategic vision and workshops and planning sessions where we think long-term ahead to, 10, 15 years down the road, some of these office parks and the product will need to be redeveloped. And the EDC will have to create programming and figure out ways to help support redevelopment. That is like 2.0 of economic development is your redevelopment. Plano is in that position today. They have a lot of office parks that need redevelopment, and they're kind of working now into that stage. So if we look at our neighbors, we'll be in that phase soon too.
So, considering the housing market has dramatically went up last 3 years, right? The average salaries, do you have a target to raise that also? Because if people have to afford these expensive houses, especially those who are living in it, probably is okay, but then taxes becomes a problem. And somebody wants to resell it, and somebody who has to buy $1 million house should have that average salary. So is that also something you kind of try to monitor or do something about it?
Yeah, we definitely keep an eye on the pulse of, as Jason mentioned, the county average wage, and that's an average of all workers, right? People making 6 figures, and then even your service workers, that's an average number. That is the average number that we require as a threshold that a company is paying in terms of salaries, because that's what you're gonna need to be successful in the market. We don't set salary rates, we don't rate, the free market kind of decides and takes care of those things. But within our compliance and our contractual agreement, we do hold the companies to a higher level of average salary if they're getting an incentive here.
Any more questions? I'm gonna pass it off to Emily. Marketing.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Emily Pollard. I am the marketing manager at the EDC, and I handle marketing and communications. And to be respectful of y'all's time, I'm gonna go very quickly. So Peyton mentioned that we soften the market as the marketing team, and that basically means that before our business attraction team goes and meets with a client, they need to know who Frisco is, and that's my job to make sure that they know who Frisco is before our team even reaches out the first time. So we proactively sell Frisco in target markets and help generate leads and interest from C-suite level executives. And we broadcast the Frisco story through paid media and organic media. So I work with publications and create advertorials, pitch stories to local media, run advertisements digitally and in print. We are always trying to drive traffic back to our website to teach them more about Frisco. All those great accolades that y'all have heard are on our website as well. And then also I manage our social media accounts and try to share this message with our local community as well. So y'all have seen this slide before, but I just want to point it out again because obviously it's really not that hard to sell Frisco. We have great marketing points, so I have a lot to work with. And then also, while I am a team of one right now at the EDC, I do have a wonderful marketing and advertising agency, Medium Giant. In 2021, we put out a request for proposal for a new ad agency, and we got 14 responses back. We ultimately went with Belo and Company, which is now Medium Giant, and we selected them as our new agency in November of 2021, which was really convenient because I joined the team in December of 2021, so I got to really learn while they learned, and we got to hear the same message. So the thing that Medium Giant said as they were having all these stakeholder interviews, and some of you actually were probably a part of those conversations, was that Frisco has this culture of unrivaled performance. And really there's, as y'all probably heard and picked up through all of the conversation today, we're competitive and we're collaborative. And that especially means our city leadership, that starts with our city leadership. Everybody's in, everybody gets it. There's a community-wide passion for education, growth, fulfillment, and we all have a committed culture of excellence. So here's an example of some of our marketing as well. Some other taglines we've developed throughout this marketing strategy, and glare. Ugh. We're built for performance, we're engineered to maximize human potential, we're future-proof. I mean, these are probably all things that y'all are sitting there thinking, yeah, we are. And we are successful in the face of social, economic, and technological change. We're unstoppable. So here's some examples of some advertisements we are currently running on social media. We launched our nationwide campaign after we accepted this culture of unrivaled performance concept, and we launched it in January of this year. So these are just some examples of some ads that have been running just in Q1. We'll refresh those in Q2, and these are currently running in all 6 or 7 of our target markets nationwide. And then we also geofence, meaning that we run ads in specific locations during certain missions that our team may be on, and then also conferences and major events that we want to make sure people are thinking of Frisco while they're there. And these things all drive website or traffic back to our website, and then we're able to further collect data on those people. So then we also run print advertising, and I know Corey's seen this ad before. And the one on the right is currently running in Forbes, Chief Executive, Inc. Magazine, DRC's Economic Development Guide, and Expansion Solutions. The one on the left, just earlier this week, Frisco got another accolade. The Dallas Metro, including Frisco, was named the #1 place for sports business in the U.S. So we ran this 2-page spread in the Sports Business Journal. And then for digital advertising, we do very similar to the social media, but this runs on, well, I guess I should break these up. We do things like run a site, which you'll see right here. This was the LA Times business section homepage, and we ran that Monday, Tuesday of this week. I can't remember anymore, but it was someday this week. We took over the whole LA Times business homepage.
That's awesome.
So anybody that visited that knew of Frisco. If you didn't know of Frisco when you clicked on there, now you do. And then also we do ads in the e-newsletters. We do banner ads and display ads, so those populate. Similar to the social media, we can geofence those to certain locations and run them in certain publications and things. So for example, our team is about to head out to New York soon. So I'm in charge of softening the market for them and making sure people know of Frisco before they're reaching out. So these unlimit yourself ads here, we thought we really do remove almost all of the limits that New York is dealing with. So that's where we got the tagline, unlimit yourself, for that campaign, and that is currently running in New York Business Journal, e-newsletters the week before, during, and after that mission. So with that,
Do you want to talk a little bit, going back to the LA, so we just also went down to South by Southwest, our Director of Innovation, Dr. Jason Kulitu, to recruit some of those tech startups and meet with VCs and in that world. The largest attendance to South by Southwest in Austin is from LA. And so everybody is going back home to LA this week, and so we dropped that in there knowing that they just left Texas and they have, they've seen maybe our Director of Innovation, they've started to hear about Frisco at South by Southwest, and so when they go back home, they're not gonna forget about us that fast. So we do that. And then for New York, right, we're on our way to New York, and so Emily has the same site wrap on the New York Business Journal, and targeting executives. That cell phone one, if you are a C-suite executive in New York and you open up your LinkedIn, you're gonna see those carousel ads in your LinkedIn. They're just gonna pop up. You click on it, and then we're just gonna keep following you around. Now you're gonna see it on your Facebook feed, you're gonna see it on Instagram. So Emily does a really great job, and I wanna say that we're collecting that web traffic, and that's how the team is targeting. So they've actually set up those 9 meetings because some executives have clicked on this, and through Clearbit reporting on our website, it tells us what company is looking and who is clicking. And then so Peyton and the team go and send this really nice email, like, hey, you clicked on, here's more information about costs, and they send them these costs, you know, side by side, and they send them more information about Frisco. And so once you click one of these things, you are not getting rid of us, we're just gonna come after you, so be careful about what you click.
She reminded me of a good point too, that I actually didn't include in here, is we do, email marketing as well, which at this day and age is kind of getting like snail mail. I mean, you get a lot of it, but at the same time, we're able to see who is going into those emails and clicking them. And then we're able to be like, hey, you're interested, and we know you're interested, and reach out and get those meetings. So Peyton, wherever you are, you had one this week that came from an email.
Now,
So,
emails are so well done, their click-through rates are higher than the national average.
yeah, much higher.
And I think it's specific targeting, right? Again, going back to, we're filtering those C-suite executives, their lease is coming up, they were just appointed in this new role because they're struggling with some internal challenges, they're supposed to fix something. They're shedding talent in their workforce, they are operating in the red on real estate, nobody's using it, they're paying double the price. So they're looking at their balance sheet and they're looking at all of this just issue, and they get an email or they get a LinkedIn, and it's geared toward them around business performance and safety, and they just start clicking through these things. So it's highly, highly targeted, it's meeting them exactly where they are as something they're thinking about, right? They're up at night like, how am I gonna turn this company around? And they get something like that, and it's just an immediate solution, so we're really, really meeting them exactly where they are.
I apologize, I have to step out for a little bit, gotta go grab a call. Emily's
I
still
think that's
here.
wrapped.
Oh, that's it?
No,
Wow.
that's wrapped.
Will y'all first of all help give a great round of applause for that? This book we just launched as a part of our Unrivaled